Is America an exceptional nation? Do you have friends who say it isn't? If you want to fully understand the roots of American exceptionalism, how it is being threatened, and what you can do about it, pick up my free ebook, Understanding American Exceptionalism, what it is, how it came to be, and why it's fading, at understandingamericabook.com. Link below in the description. Across America today, a debate is raging over the removal of Confederate statues. Some see the statues only as symbols of slavery and are willing to engage in outright vandalism to see them removed. Others worry about the wisdom of removing them and worry about where this is leading. What is going on here? When vandals smash monuments, their goal is to destroy the past in order to prevent it from influencing the future. This is why the Taliban eradicated the ancient Buddhist statues of Bamiyan, or why ISIS attempted to raze the ancient Semitic city of Palmyra to the ground. In both cases, their goal was to eliminate any alternative view to their own, thereby making Islam king on a field of corpses. Both the Taliban and ISIS are destroyers, not builders. These are not the types of men who build great civilizations. As horrifying as their actions were, however, they were not tearing down the past of functioning societies. Building working civilizations is difficult, and it is a curse of man that those who live in them so often take them for granted. A working society is like a skyscraper, with each floor being built on the generation that came before. Living on the top floor, it's easy to dismiss those who came before you, building the lower levels that now look dingy to your eyes. It is easy to do, but wrong, as your penthouse rests on those levels in ways you cannot possibly understand. This is why Taliban-like ideas of erasing the past can be so much more devastating to advanced societies. Two examples of this are the French Revolution and the Cambodian genocide. In both cases, both regimes decided to tear down the foundations of their civilizations, destroying their past in order to begin anew at year zero. Much like removing the foundation from a building, unmooring your society in such a way has devastating consequences. In these cases, the results were the Reign of Terror and the Cambodian genocide. This is why the wise view their forefathers with reverence for what they built and aspire to build on their accomplishments. Only a fool, with no appreciation of how the ground on which he stands came to be, seeks to destroy it. No great nation or civilization has a perfect track record. The men and women who built the foundations of America were not perfect, yet they prepared the ground for a nation that people will risk their lives to get to today. Is this not worth something? If you are okay with tearing down monuments to Civil War generals, how do you feel about tearing down statues of Franklin Roosevelt due to his internment of Japanese Americans? Or how do you think Martin Luther King Jr.'s view on gay marriage holds up today? Should we tear down these founders of modern America too? These men may have gotten some things wrong by modern standards, but they got much more right, and they created legacies on which others built. Before you start throwing their statues into the dustbins of history, you might want to give some thought as to what you're doing to the foundations of your civilization. Take another look at the kinds of people who are tearing down these statues. Do they look like the kind of people who build nations, like the Founding Fathers, Franklin Roosevelt, or Martin Luther King did? Or do they look like ignorant French or Cambodian revolutionaries in modern garb? Slavery still exists in parts of the world. People are being murdered on a daily basis on the streets of Chicago, yet they choose to tear down statues. Their actions are little more than ignorant barbarism disguised as inflated virtue. They are destroyers, and woe be to any nation that becomes engulfed in such ignorance. When Nelson Mandela was elected president of South Africa in 1994, he had every reason to hate the Springbok rugby jersey. It was seen as a symbol of the oppressor, and Nelson Mandela himself would cheer for the opposition in his prison cell while imprisoned on Robben Island. However, when the now black-dominated South African Sports Committee pressed to have the Springbok removed as a symbol of the national rugby team, Mandela resisted it. He understood the value of symbols and the dangers of wiping them from history. When Nelson Mandela wore the Springbok jersey in front of the overwhelmingly white crowd at the 1995 Rugby World Cup, the entire stadium shouted his name. It was, in the words of Desmond Tutu, an electric moment. It had the effect of just turning around the country. It was an incredible transformation, an extraordinary thing. It said, yes, it is actually possible for us to become one nation. It was an electric moment. But here's the thing. Nelson Mandela was not a saint. He was a man. And if you wish to look up his past, you can find many questionable things. Nonetheless, in that moment, Nelson Mandela, much like the Founding Fathers, chose to build his nation rather than destroy its foundations. Statues from the past matter. Symbolism matters. The legend of Nelson Mandela matters. Like so many things, The Simpsons understood this many years ago. When I watch these modern-day Taliban attack the foundations of our society, I pray that someone will hand them a history book. Failing that, maybe they can at least watch a Simpsons cartoon. Those who don't learn from the past are doomed to repeat it. Nothing good has ever come from wanton destruction. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking it and subscribing to my channel. Don't forget to press the little button as well to be notified when new videos are available. If you would like to support my channel, there are two ways to do it. One way is to support me on my Patreon account at patreon.com/Tocqueville. Patreon allows people to support their favorite content creators directly. Even $1 a month helps me out a lot and will allow me to create more and better content. The second way is to purchase some of my books and comics from Amazon. I've actually created a number of short stories and comics under the name Funny Comics, loosely based on the game Minecraft. Some of my most popular titles are my movie Minecraft parody comics. More recently, however, I have started to create comics and short stories that will hopefully educate as well as entertain. My first two titles feature George Washington and Ronald Reagan as characters. With your support, I hope to make more in the future, and all of these titles are free with Kindle Unlimited. Links for both options are below in the description. Thank you in advance for any support you can give.